Imagine a world where Earth is just a giant cosmic donut and we've been living on the crust this whole time. Yeah, that'd be weird. But not as weird as what actually happened. In 1947, a decorated American naval officer named Admiral Richard E. Byrd allegedly flew into a lush green land inside the Earth. No, this isn't a plot from a 1950s sci-fi novel. This claim is at the core of one of history's most persistent and bizarre conspiracies, the Hollow Earth theory. Why would a seasoned explorer report seeing woolly mammoths and advanced civilizations beneath Antarctica? Because according to believers, our planet isn't solid, it's hollow, and there's an entire other world down there. It was a time of Cold War tension, wild imagination, and yes, bad haircuts, and even worse decisions. And things were about to get messy. Real messy. Welcome to Infinitia Verity, where we break down complicated history into bite-sized, cartoonish chaos. We're diving deep, like center of the Earth, deep into the mysterious maps, secret missions, and diary entries that keep the Hollow Earth theory alive today. Ready? Let's go! Our story begins in early 20th century Europe and America, around the time when science was booming and maps were still leaving out huge chunks of Antarctica, and people were wondering things like, what if we just kept digging forever? It wasn't exactly sunshine and rainbows, more like cloudy with a chance of revolution and 2 world wars. Technology was advancing faster than sanity. And between Einstein's relativity, Freud's theories, and the invention of canned ravioli, nothing seemed impossible anymore. But beneath all the progress was a fascinating undercurrent of fringe science and wild imagination. Enter the Hollow Earth theory. The idea wasn't new. As early as 1692, English astronomer Edmond Halley, the Halley's comet guy, proposed that the Earth consisted of concentric spheres, each possibly hosting life and even atmosphere. He wrote, "I have adventured to make this hypothesis that the Earth is hollow, and within it are other globes." Fast forward to the early 1900s, and things got spicier. In 1913, author Marshall B. Gardner published A Journey to the Earth's Interior, complete with diagrams showing Earth as hollow, with the central sun lighting up an inner paradise. He believed that both the North and South Poles had openings, giant holes basically leading into this hidden world. While mainstream science laughed, fringe thinkers cheered. And with most of Antarctica still unexplored, the theory wasn't easily dismissed. Now let's introduce our unlikely star Rear Admiral Richard Evelyn Byrd, American hero, decorated naval officer, and polar explorer extraordinaire. By the 1930s and 40s, Byrd had become a legend for flying over the North Pole and conducting high-risk missions in Antarctica. To the public, he was the brave guy battling sub-zero temperatures. 2 conspiracy theorists, the man who accidentally flew into another world. Oh, and here's a fun fact. The US officially banned civilian travel to Antarctica for years post-Double II. That definitely didn't help calm the speculation. Back then, the world was divided. Some people believed in atomic bombs, others believed in inner Earth elves. But one thing was certain, Admiral Byrd was heading south on a mission called Operation Highjump, and the history of Hollow Earth was about to get a whole lot weirder. As the years rolled into the 1940s, global tension was rising faster than a souffle in a volcano. The Cold War was heating up, UFO sightings were multiplying, and nations were racing to control the last blank spots on the map like Antarctica, which, at the time, was still about as well known as your neighbor's Wi-Fi password. Enter Operation Highjump, launched in 1946 to 47 by the US Navy. Officially, it was a military training mission to test equipment in extreme conditions. Unofficially, conspiracy theorists were screaming, they're going to find the entrance to the Hollow Earth. The mission was massive, like unnecessarily massive. We're talking 13 ships, 4,700 men, aircraft carriers, submarines, and even destroyers, because obviously Nothing says scientific exploration like packing enough firepower to start a small war. At the helm, none other than Rear Admiral Richard E. Byrd. Now, Byrd wasn't your average, let's go look at penguins kind of explorer. He was a legend. In 1926, he claimed to be the first man to fly over the North Pole, a claim debated to this day. By 1929, he flew over the South Pole. He was also awarded the Medal of Honor. So yeah, he was kind of a big deal. But here's where things start getting weird. According to a document that surfaced years later, supposedly Byrd's secret diary, something strange happened during his Antarctic flight. He allegedly flew into an opening near the South Pole and saw mammoths, green valleys, a flying disc, and met beings called the Masters of Agartha. Sounds wild, right? Like someone mixed Tolkien, Jules Verne, and a military mission together in a blender. Here's a direct quote from the alleged diary. "We have penetrated the heart of the unknown. I am greeted by a being of superintelligence. They say I am welcome, and they have been watching our species for a long time." Of course, skeptics argue the diary is a forgery and there's no official Navy documentation to support it. But Hollow Earth believers point to how the US abruptly ended Operation Highjump just 6 months in, even though it was planned to last 8. Why? Theories range from bad weather to they were warned to stay out. Historian Dr. Stephen Ritchie notes, there is no conclusive evidence that Byrd ever made such a discovery. But the way Operation Highjump ended so suddenly did leave room for speculation. Super, Journal of Polar Studies, 1998. To add fuel to the fire, in a March 5, 1947 interview, Byrd warned, "The United States must prepare to defend itself against enemy aircraft flying in from polar regions." Now that got people talking. Was he referring to Soviet bombers or something else? By the time the press caught wind, the public was torn between thinking Byrd was a national hero or a man who had seen something he wasn't allowed to explain. So here we are, a secretive mission, a sudden withdrawal, a diary that may or may not be fake, and a quote that launched 1,000 YouTube documentaries. So Operation Highjump ends early, Byrd returns, and the media? They're practically frothing for answers, but instead of clarity, they get vague press releases, cryptic statements, and more gaps than Swiss cheese. Let's start with the secret diary. No official version of Byrd's 1947 diary exists in US Navy archives. The supposed Inner Earth diary only surfaced in the 1970s, decades after Byrd's death. Published by believers like Raymond W. Bernard, who also happened to be a prominent esotericist and proponent of Hollow Earth theories, the diary contains fantastical accounts, crystalline cities, advanced aircraft, and gentle Agarthans warning humanity to change course. But historians and Byrd's family members have called the diary a forgery, citing inconsistencies in writing style, content, and lack of physical evidence. According to Dr. David L. Bristow, an Antarctic historian, there is no credible documentation linking Admiral Byrd to such statements. His official logs from Operation Highjump describe standard flight operations, nothing more. Still, that didn't stop conspiracy theorists. And then there's Byrd's cryptic post-mission interview, published in the El Mercurio newspaper on March 5, 1947. He was quoted saying, "The next war will be fought not across the Atlantic, but from polar regions." It was vague, it was ominous, and it definitely wasn't followed up with public clarification. The US military quickly distanced itself from Byrd's remarks. Was he talking about Soviet bombers crossing over the pole? Let's talk logistics. Operation Highjump ended months early, suffered at least 3 fatalities. Had 0 official scientific publications released afterwards. Suspicious? Hollow Earth theorists certainly think so. Meanwhile, mainstream scientists pointed to weather conditions, equipment failure, and dangerous terrain as reasons for withdrawal. A United States Navy report, declassified in 1991, stated, Logistical constraints and severe environmental hazards made continuation impractical. But others like Fringe author William Reed weren't buying it, Reed argued. The absence of documentation only proves what we already suspect, that something was found and it was buried, figuratively and literally. So, what do we have? A mission shrouded in military secrecy, a dubious diary, a vague warning from a respected admiral, and no clear answers. Whether you believe Byrd uncovered something extraordinary or the public imagination just ran wild, one thing's for sure, the inconsistencies only deepened the mystery. Mainstream science says Earth has a solid crust molten mantle and a core, not a cozy paradise under our feet. Seismic data, magnetic field studies, and satellite imaging all support this. But Hollow Earth theorists argue there's deliberate suppression, citing Byrd's statements, ancient myths, and missing expedition logs. Some claim entrances exist at the poles, shielded by classified zones. So, which theory makes more sense to you? Let's hear it in the comments. What if the Hollow Earth theory is more than a fringe idea? Some researchers claim advanced civilizations live beneath the surface, guarded by governments and military forces, preventing humanity from knowing the truth. This theory is often dismissed as pseudoscience, but evidence like Byrd's own cryptic warnings and unexplained military withdrawals raises serious questions. Could it be that the truth is hidden in plain sight? And there you have it, the strange saga of Admiral Byrd, Operation Highjump, and the Hollow Earth theory. We started with a legendary explorer, ventured through secret diaries and cryptic interviews, and ended up asking, what's really out there? Who knew that polar exploration, secret military operations, and a few odd diaries could spark debates that are still going strong today? In the end, maybe we'll never know what Byrd truly discovered in Antarctica. But one thing's for sure, history is full of unanswered questions, and sometimes the answers are stranger than fiction. If you enjoyed this wild ride through history, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. We've got more absurdly true stories coming your way. And remember, those who don't learn history are doomed to repeat it, or at least they can laugh at it. This is Infinitia Verity, where history gets a little more animated. See you next